I turn around and see the dark figure staring towards me, with its huge red eyes piercing through my soul. However, tonight they look at me as if challenging me, as if inviting me to come and confront it. I turn away and start to run. My brain takes longer than usual to react, my legs unwilling to respond, and my eyes always fixed on its ever-glowing red stare. It lunges towards me before I have time to react, and I only catch a glimpse of the somber-looking trees around us before everything vanishes. I wake up startled and I look around looking for the red eyes. Nothing, only the faint sun rising in the horizon. I am unable to fall asleep again. The dreams have become more and more constant. Sometimes she's in the dream too, being devoured by this black figure before I can help her. But I know that she is no more, and that no darkness befalls her anymore. I think of her very often, trying to convince myself that she is still here somehow, but I just fool myself. My beloved mother will not come back, which is why I am forced to walk this path alone. Wrapped up in my thoughts, I see the sun start to rise, and a man on his horse riding down the road. I must be close to Agua Dulce. This small town has taken me many days to find, an elusive town which nobody seems to talk about, which when asked about, everyone fakes ignorance, as if with horror that something might haunt them if they dare speak about it. But as it always happens, money and alcohol open the tightest of lips. This man that spoke to me about it said some very weird things. I don't know if the Scotch had already taken the best of him. "You're a good man, Mr. Sierra," he told me, "and if you want to go, it's alright by me. But not many visitors make it out of Agua Dulce these days. It seems as if something befalls every person that ventures to that cursed town, as if something was waiting for them." I tried to ask him more about it, but he only laughed and said, "Well, Mr. Sierra, I don't think any of what I tell you will persuade you not to go, so I guess you'll figure it out yourself sooner or later." So here I am, walking down the road, to this town of secrets with hopes of finding rather than being found. I have looked for my father for a rather long time, and some gloomy little town is not going to make me turn around. I just hope my encounter with him will happen before I encounter this darkness that roams around town. Finally, I see the town. It is bigger than I expected. I can see why it is so elusive. A town covered by hills and towering trees that signal the entrance of a forest nearby. I enter the town as the people of town start their busy morning. Signs for shops are put up, the smell of fresh bread reaches my nostrils, and animals moving around in their cages and fences, desperate and eager to be involved in the movement. Each pair of eyes turn to look at me as I walk down the road, a look of anger mixed with fear. At one point I thought I heard a voice in the distance say, "Go away," but it just might have been my imagination. I keep walking as I feel their stare burning into the back of my head. I look for any sign that signals a place to rest. Finally, I see a sign that signals the inn, on the front of a building. I rush in and close the door behind me, trying to block out the sea of staring glares, only to be greeted by a couple of other eyes glaring at me in the inn. I try to ignore them as I head over to the counter. I see an old man cleaning some glasses and tidying up the place. I stand there, but he doesn't seem to see me, even though I am standing well within eyesight. A little bit mad, I call him and he turns to face me. And that's when I see it, his eyes devoid of any light turning towards me. Seems like this blind man was not pretending not to see me after all, I say to myself. I thought I heard someone come in, but I don't recognize your voice. Who might you be, stranger? He asked. I present myself as Luis, trying to avoid as many details as possible, so I can go to a comfy bed and get out of all these people staring at me. I ask for a room and he agrees with a smile. He takes out the book to register me. "What is your name again, son?" he asks. "Luis Sierra," I respond. The last name that has caused me so much trouble escaping my lips. He lifts up his head slowly and shuts the book immediately. Everyone at the inn is staring at me as if with the only mention of my name, I had invoked a demon of some kind. "Get out!" shouts the blind old man. "We don't need your kind here." I see some of the men start to stand up and I hurry out of the inn to avoid confrontation. As I ponder about this, I see a small chapel and the priest with a fixed stare looking at me. However, his look does not seem mean or aggressive, but more as if keeping a secret he has been wanting to tell me. I follow him inside and see him sitting at one of the benches. I go and stand next to him, his eyes fixed on the pulpit. "My name is Luis," I start. "Sierra." "I know," he says. "Don't be surprised at the reception they gave you. The people are scared and I think it is normal due to the situation." "What situation?" I ask. He gives me a big grin and says, "Oh, so you don't know about it. May I ask what brings you here then?" I am starting to get a little impatient by all this secrecy. As calmly as possible I explain to him that I am looking for my father, Marco Sierra, whom I have not seen since I was a kid. "Oh, I know your father all right," he says with a somber tone. He is the man responsible for all the upheaval in this town. I get excited at the thought that my search is almost over, but I notice the tone of the priest's voice and ask him what my father has done to deserve such hate. He laughs and starts telling me the story. He tells me that my father has been famous for a long time for dealing with dark forces and evil spirits, and nobody dares to oppose him for that reason. He sees the look of disbelief on my face but carries on. He tells me of an old tale of some sorcerers. It is rumored that at night they are able to turn into ferocious creatures whom devour humans at will, and that last week an enormous wolf has been responsible for the death of several people in town. Funny coincidence, he says sarcastically. These are people whom your father had big fights with in the last weeks. Your father spends a great amount of time in the forest by the great oak tree. You should search there first if you want to find him, but if you value your life, you will turn around and leave this town as soon as you can. I turn around to leave, looking at him in disbelief, and see a dark figure standing at the door listening to our conversation. I stare trying to see who it is, but the only thing I see is the same pair of glowing red eyes from my dreams, staring at us from the door. However, they are only there for a second and then disappear. The priest suddenly grabs me by the shoulder and shoves me out. "Out with you fiends," he says. "We have been haunted by you for enough time already." He locks the door of the chapel and I stay there pondering about his words and the dark figure. It is almost dark, but I decide that if I am to find my father, the only hint I have is the forest. The trail that leads to the forest is dark and gloomy, as if the town and that abandoned road belong to two different worlds. I sit on the path and wait for any signs of my father. I doze off for a moment, dreaming about the wolf and the pair of red eyes glaring at me. When I wake up, there is a big commotion in town, and in the trail, men with torches, machetes, and rifles are heading towards the forest. A lot of screams are heard. I ask one of the passerbys what is happening. "The wolf has gone into the town again, and taken the priest into the forest, and I'll be damned if we don't kill it this time." I remember what the priest said and venture into the forest with them, out of fear that my father is in danger too. As the men go deeper into the forest, we can hear the screams in the distance of the priest being attacked by the wolf. The trees tall and brooding seem to be watching us as if telling us to turn back. As we go deeper, I spot the great oak tree in the distance, a huge mighty tree with a small river at its roots. We can hear the screams becoming louder and louder, and the sound of flesh being torn apart. We venture closer and we see it, feasting on the still alive flesh of the poor man. The wolf stops its carnage for a moment and turns to look at us, its ever-glowing red eyes staring deep into my soul. The dream has now become true and it is a nightmare. It lunges toward a small group and a lot of them run away in fear. I stay there with a small group stuck in place more out of fear than out of bravery. One man tries to shoot it and misses, and before he can shoot again, his hand is gone and the wolf's teeth pierce his neck. Another man tries to shoot but drops his rifle out of fear, and before he can react, the creature lunges towards him and bites his leg off. The man's piercing screams dying off when the creature takes a bite out of his neck. Before he can turn around, I grab the rifle of the first man, and just as it faces me, I shoot. I see the bullet go right between his eyes. I get closer to look at it to see if it is alive, but as I get closer, I don't see the wolf anymore, but the shape of a man laying on the waters. I approach with caution and see that he is dead, his eyes still open from the impact. His face is awfully familiar, as if I have seen myself in the mirror. An older version of me with gray hair and wrinkles, and then I see the eyes. Those red eyes that have haunted me every day since I was a child. It is the face of Garcia, my father, the one who lies in the water. Looking in disbelief and finding out the priest's story to be true, I gaze in horror at this monster whom I once looked up to so much. I close his eyes and turn around to leave, a feeling of hatred and fury running through my veins. I catch a glimpse of something red in the water. I fix my gaze on the river, lighted by the moon, and I see a pair of glowing red eyes staring back at me. The only difference is these ones are my own. I look around in disbelief, however with a sense of hate burning inside me, and a desire for flesh burn into my brain. I feel the toll of a demonic curse taking toll on me, an old curse, a curse that has always been calling me, a curse that has always been in my blood.